Okay, welcome back from the break. I hope you had your awesome lunch. I know today it was early lunch, but how was it? Did you had anything? What about you, Dalai? What did you had for lunch?
Went classic American, and I had some tomato soup and a grilled cheese.
Oh, that's great. Juice here as well. I'll be having a late lunch today.
Okay.
Right.
So should we maybe do a Bollywood poll?
Yes, I'm always ready for that. I hope this time I'll be able to answer.
I think you might get this one. Let's see. Let's pull up the next poll. Okay, so Jitendra, an iconic actor from yesteryear, what was his original name? Because there are many actors who go by one name, who go by stage names. I get asked a lot of the times if my name is a stage name, but nope, my parents were just very original. So I lucked out like that. Let's see. Is anybody getting it right?
For sure, it is Kapoor.
Well, see, all of them are Kapoor, so that's a genius observation, Naveen. Okay, come on, put your votes in, guys. Let's see. I feel like maybe people know something I don't with the way the results are coming in. Because I have an answer, but I feel like a lot of people are agreeing with each other about what it is.
Ravi for sure.
You've got the first part and the last part of all the answers. I have deduced that it must be.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm going to give you guys about, let's say, 10 more seconds. Yeah? Okay, come on. Quickly get your votes in before the poll closes. I'm seeing one result edging forward. Let's see. Hey, don't put it in the chat. You're going to reveal the answer to everybody. Who was that? Who just put the answer in the chat?
No, it was only to us. It didn't put it to everybody. They just sent it to us. You can close it and go move and go ahead and let's move on to the slide.
Let's see the results. Okay, so a lot of people seem to agree that it's Ravi Shankar Kapoor. Based on my research and what my answer is, it's Ravi Kapoor. But please let me know if you guys have a secret insight that I don't. What did you think it was, Naveen?
Yeah, I was thinking about Ravindra Kapoor. Even I'm wrong in that way.
Just picked a third option. Okay, back to you.
Great. Awesome. So after we finish the Bollywood quiz, lunch is over, quiz is over, and now it's time for the session I was waiting for a long time, the Corda 5. So finally, we are revealing the Corda 5, let's see the developer preview.
We can do and for that, if you want, Naveen, should we give away a little bit of money? How about we give a little bit of money?
Yes, we can do that.
Let's get a little crazy because it's getting down to the end of the day. Let's give away $200.
Yeah,
it's a big one. It's a big one. So let's see, because some people haven't come back from lunch yet, so they're going to miss out.
Right. So let's do a poll. Let me share my screen. And we are going for section 3.1. Great. So please, everyone, join the poll or the quiz. So we are going for $200 for this one. Let's see how many of you joined here. Come on, everyone. It's real money. Okay, a lot of people are joining. Let me just check on my browser.
Got 23 people joined. We'll wait a little bit more.
Yes. Well, I can see Sagar, Ritika, Harsh, Yogesh, John.
We got some past withers with Alexi and Asif. It's going to be a victory. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so we are starting in 5 seconds, everyone. I hope you're all set. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we get our first question here. The Atom text editor is developed by whom? Is it Microsoft, Red Hat, GitHub, Facebook? 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. And let's see what you answered. Okay, most of you are saying GitHub. Is it right? And that is correct. Awesome. Okay, next one. Next question. All set? Here we go. What is POW, which is proof of work? Is it a cryptocurrency, blockchain, tag, algorithm? Half of you already voted. 3 more seconds. And here we go. Okay, most of you are saying it's an algorithm. No one says attack. That is correct. It's algorithm. Easy questions, huh? Let's see the scores. Let's see who is on top of the leaderboard. Oh, it's Consti. That's great. We got others in a second, please. Okay. The only difference is of 1 second. Can you see that? The importance of 1 second. Let's do that. Let's go for the third question here. Okay, this is a multi-answer question. Okay, so you have to select multiple answers. Select all the JVM languages. Java, Scala, Clojure, C#. Come on, 3 more seconds. And let's see what you have selected. Okay, next answer. Let's see the right answer. So this is Java, Scala, and Clojure, which works on JVM. Nice. C# doesn't work on JVM. It works on Microsoft. I forgot the runtime name. Doesn't matter. Let's go for the fourth question. If you know the runtime where C# works, you can just write down in the comment section or the chat window. Fourth question. DAS is a simple interactive computer programming environment that takes a single user input, executes them, and returns the result to the user. Is it REPL, applet, interpreter, runtime? Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, so most of you are saying interpreter. That was on purpose, but the actual answer is REPL. REPL is something which takes the input, executes them, and yeah, you can say interpreter, but in programming terms, it is REPL. Okay, last question. Guess the logo. Ooh. Okay, tricky. Let's see what most of you are saying. Okay, so let's see the options. And okay, is it that easy? Most of you are saying Apache, and that is correct. You're doing well. Even post-lunch quiz is doing well. And let's see the leaderboard. Oh, R is on top. R, this is the second time you're winning. Is it Richard, if I'm not wrong? Congrats, Richard. This is the second time you're winning. You will receive the mail soon from us. And congratulations for, Gavin, what's the amount? $200?
Yeah, we can bring R up and you see a few words like, how's he doing it? Is it, he's quite knowledgeable, knows it quite quickly. Let's see. R, you can unmute and come up if you want. And,
yes,
chat
Richard,
with Naveen real
if
quick.
you can unmute yourself.
Just raise your hand. Yeah, raise your hand. Come on up.
That's fine. We will not ask you questions verbally. Just wanted to know your experience.
Okay, he's live. Go ahead. Hey, Richard.
Hi. I really don't know what I'm going to do with this money. I'm sure it will help for something. Yes, I'm a software developer since some time, so that's my area. Most quizzes I lose.
You're really good at it.
Yeah. So getting maybe a new mouse and keyboard this time? Upgrading your set?
A new keyboard would be fine. A better one that I have, yes. We'll see.
So that music, maybe a mechanical keyboard will be good. That's great. Richard, I hope you will keep playing these quizzes and will more.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Richard. Now it's time to move towards the next topic, which is the Corda 5 developer preview. And for that, we have Sneha. Sneha, you're all set. Corda 5 is here.
Yes, all set, Naveen.
Great. All yours. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Naveen. So hello, guys. Welcome again, all of you from the lunch. So for this session, we'll be talking about, and we'll be taking you through the Corda 5 developer preview journey. Again, I'm Sneha from the developer relations team, and I'm excited to tell you that we have Nina with us. So she's the product manager at R3 and completely handles anything and everything when it comes to Corda 5. Nina will share with us the Corda 5 product roadmap. She will also talk from a very high level about Corda 5 key concepts. Okay. I also have Peter with me, so feel free to put in your questions in the chat channel whenever you have, and Peter will be taking care of these questions. So I think without wasting any more time, over to you, Nina.
Perfect. Hey guys, let me share my screen with you. Can you guys see?
Yep, looks
Yes.
great. Looks great.
Super. Okay, well, hi everyone. I'm Nina Kanti. I'm a platform product manager here in R3. I'm primarily responsible for the developer experience of Corda, and most of my time lately has been spent on the next major version of Corda, which is Corda 5, which I'd love to speak to you about today. So I'm going to give you an overview of what's coming up in the Corda 5 series, touching on the new concepts you can expect. Corda 5 is currently under active development. We've still a long way to go till we reach a production version of Corda. We've just released a Corda 5 developer preview last month, which you can get your hands on and see what it's like. And Sneha's going to go over that in more detail to show you what kind of functionality is coming up. You can expect more previews in the Corda 5 series as we make our way up to a production version of Corda sometime next year. We want to give you an idea of what's coming up, but most importantly, to get your feedback from these preview releases, including developer preview, which was released last week, to make sure that we're addressing your problems and needs. Before we deep dive into the new concepts and functionality, let's go through some of the goals of Corda 5. What are we trying to achieve? Where are we trying to go? Developers are key to the success of our platform. As such, we want to make sure we build a product and a platform to ensure that you can build Corda apps as effectively as possible with an improved developer experience. We want to ensure Corda is cost effective and the operational cost is lowered for various hosting options you may have on hand to make sure we ensure we get you guys to go to market quicker. We want to look towards making deployment options less complex. Corda 5 will have optionality to give you guys a choice to choose which operating model suits your business best. Corda 5 has increasingly been considered for highly available mission critical systems, making this one of our key objectives in the 5 series. We want to make Corda suitable for real-time, highly available systems, like for the payments and CDBC space. You can expect key architectural changes to allow us to meet these objectives. Now that we've gone through what we want to achieve, let's discuss how Corda 5 will meet these objectives. I'll spend the rest of the presentation to go over the following new concepts. Application networks, we want to allow you to focus on building your application from development all the way up to production phase. This includes allowing your end customers to get onto a network with ease. We've made our APIs modular, which we hope to improve your development and test experience. You can test this out yourself in developer preview, which was released last month. To make Corda highly available, we will introduce the concept of event-driven workers, speak on virtual nodes, which will make use of Corda's scalable architecture, which allows us to introduce the various operational patterns which might suit your business. Lastly, touch on how we anticipate applications will interact with each other via composability and interoperability. In Corda 5, we want to move towards an application-centric model. Now, what does that mean? We want to adopt the pattern of being application-centric. We understood from customers that Corda-based applications are built for purpose of joining a network and interacting with peers. We don't want to overcomplicate the process or reinvent the wheel here. Being application-centric simply means to focus on building your Corda application. Everything you need will be handled in a single artifact, which can be consumed by your end users to deploy. We want to give developers all the tools and guides required to focus on building your business logic, package it up, and to turn your prospect customers into participants on a network easily. Corda 4 has been in the market over the last couple of years, and we've learned a lot, understanding what our customers find valuable. We find success in this concept called business networks, which has become increasingly important. We're motivated to make the experience of creating and operating a network much simpler and less complex. We understand it's important to interact with peers securely. We are changing the network model quite substantially on Corda. We're simplifying a network to be simply just a network of peers who have access to the same application and membership list, which is permissioned by an entity which we call membership group manager, who governs these permissions, Alongside this, to make application networks a reality, we're introducing a new packaging format, which Sneha will go into more detail on her side of the presentation, where you only need a single artifact with all your network identity membership information, which gives you the ability to move towards an application-centric model. One key objective for us is to improve the developer experience. I care about this a lot myself. We've released new modular APIs to increase developer velocity. We've conducted an in-house experiment last year called Project Layer Cake, where we reviewed multiple Corda apps currently publicly available to identify common development patterns to see how we could improve your time to value. Project Layer Cake inspired us to make the APIs modular, which are also now interface-based, making the testability of our platform even faster. Corda 5 will represent the value of Corda in layers, prompting you guys, developers and technologists in the Corda community, to rationalize what layers of Corda you need to meet your use case. So let's start with the very bottom layer, which we anticipate most users will require, which is the ability to communicate with peers securely. This we call the network layer, which is the foundation of our identity stack as well. Moving up to workflows, which allows you to automate business processes between peers. Ledger giving you the what you see is what I see guarantees. And finally, moving all the way top to the contracts layer, allowing you to automate evolved states across peers in a network. I wrote a blog post about this, which will be coming up tomorrow on our official Medium page. So please do check it out to understand how it impacts you and how you can think about Corda and layers. In the meantime, I did release a blog post last week on the modular APIs and what they mean. So please do check that out. One of our main objectives for Corda 5 is to make it suitable for highly available mission critical systems. We're doing this by making Corda an event-driven system. We hope to do this by implementing what we call workers, where Kafka is used as a message bus to speak with various services. A worker is essentially a Java process running on separate containers. A worker runs a set of processes on your behalf. You can have multiple workers running the same processes, which all listen to the same event stream as a new task enters. A worker listens to the Kafka topic, which pulls the task, computes the operation, and puts the result into a Kafka message bus. This not only helps us meet our availability objectives, but gives operators the ability to scale up when their operations are required and scale back down at non-bursty times. Corda will adopt a container orchestration architecture, making it suitable for cloud-first systems. We've got a lot of feedback from our customers in the past, and we're listening. Corda is cloud first, and Corda 5 will champion this. To know more on exactly how we plan to do this, we did do a Medium post by Marcello on my team, speaking about how we're making Corda highly available and the architecture changes required to really make that happen. Okay, so let's touch on virtual nodes. One of the other key objectives is to make Corda multi-tenant. We've realized cost is a big factor when aiming to go to production. And this is for deployment and operating your Corda solution. Once you've built your distributed application, maybe some customers will perhaps start deploying their Corda following a SaaS model and progressively decentralize as you achieve critical mass on the network. The virtual node concept gives you the optionality to do this. A virtual node is a combination of a holding identity with a single Corda artifact with its own dedicated data running in isolation. We're introducing sandboxing in Corda 5, meaning you can have multiple virtual nodes running side by side without information or process leaking. Applications in Corda 5 will ensure that data is segregated and in dedicated instances. The virtual node concept can allow you to adopt a multi-tenant operational model, and in instances where you might be part of multiple networks, you no longer need to redeploy your whole infrastructure again or incur the cost. Composability of an application is much clearer in Corda 5 with the introduction of the new packaging format. Sneha will go over what types of packaging format and what are the layers later in her presentation. You install your application using an installer, ensuring you don't have any dependency clashes with the use of sandboxing technology. You can now safely bundle applications together. So now let's discuss state composability, where two or more Corda apps decide that they need to share the same Corda ledger. With the new installer concept, you can explicitly package a set of Corda apps together, which have been tested for these types of scenarios, allowing the Corda apps to be bundled together, which can use the same ledger and consume states from one Corda app to another. But how about two Corda apps in different application networks that want to do business with each other? For whatever sound reason, they choose not to bundle their applications and choose to exist on their own individual networks and want to be operated independently. This is where we see interoperability come in. Interoperability gives developers the ability to interact with two applications on the network. We're building out a protocol in the Corda 5 series to make this happen. We will be releasing a blog post on our official medium as well on how this protocol could work and how we envision interoperability in the Corda 5 series as we move towards this application-centric model. So that's basically all the cool key concepts in the Corda 5 series. Before I wrap up, let's just do a quick recap on all the new information I've just offloaded all to you guys. So we spoke about Corda 5 moving towards an application-centric model to simplify the experience of building Corda. This is very important to us, and this is where we'd like to get your feedback to ensure that every preview we release, we kind of you guys keep us honest. And if you have any improvements or ideas, please do let us know. We're adopting application networks, allowing memberships and peers to manage the lifecycle of a network and applications. We have made our APIs modular, allowing you to test your application more effectively and build your application in layers, opening Corda up to new use cases. Corda is moving towards an event-driven model, allowing us to meet the objective to make Corda highly available as well as scalable. We've touched on virtual nodes, which has everything you need to run and operate your application, reducing your operational cost by representing multiple tenants on the same physical host. Lastly, we spoke about app composability, which the new packaging model, how we aim to achieve interoperability between two independent networks as we move towards an application-centric model. That's it for me. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to hand you over to Sneha, but please do try out Developer Preview, see what it's like, and give us feedback. You can find myself and the other PMs on Slack and Discord, and over to you, Sneha.
Thanks, Nina. That was great. So these were some of really cool changes which we just saw, right? Which Nina mentioned in her talk, which have been added in Corda 5. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deep dive technically into each one of these features released as a part of Developer Preview. I want all of you to easily and quickly get started with Corda 5. So what we'll do is let's deep dive a bit more into each of these concepts explained by Nina. And at the very end, let's try to build and deploy a simple Corda 5 Corda app. So let me share my screen. Yeah. I hope you're able to see my screen, guys.
Yep, looks great.
Awesome. Okay. So as you can see here on this slide, there are a whole bunch of features which have been added in Corda 5. Okay. So let's start by talking about, I would say, let's start by talking about networks, membership, and multi-tenancy. Corda is a privately permissioned DLT platform. And with Corda 5 as well, it is still going to be a private permissioned DLT platform. With Corda 4, once you've built a Corda app and you wish to interoperate, let's say, with some other party, there are a whole bunch of things which you need to know when you wish to create or join a network. This starts by defining the certificate authority, getting the certificates issued from the CA, defining the KYC process for the parties to join the network, setting up the network map server for discovering other parties in the network, and so on. This entire process gets quite complex and tiring. So Corda 5 seeks to greatly simplify this. From a developer's perspective, what you really care about is, I would say, this is my business logic and these are my network details. How do I just quickly get started, right? In Corda 5, you don't need to follow the complex process of setting up the network. With Corda 5, your application and network are completely loosely coupled. Your application is independent of the network you wish to join. With Corda 5, we give you a default MGM Corda app, which takes care of creating all the network using the information provided by you. You can register and join this network using the MGM Corda app, as you can see in the slide. Now you can choose your own certificate authority. You can use your own existing certificates, which can be used to sign the transactions. With Corda 5, we now will be using standard PKI for issuing digital certificates. You would be able to define your own rules. You would be able to make groups within a network. You would be able to assign roles and permissions by using this MGM Corda app. All of this is done using this Corda app. And if you don't like the way it is done, no problem. You can write your own Corda app to tackle this entire process. But just a quick note, for Corda 5 developer preview, we haven't released this MGM bit of the code. So as of now, you still use the old way, the Corda 4 way of creating and deploying the network using the network bootstrapper jar. Now we want to move and focus towards an application-centric model, as Nina mentioned in her talk. We want the developers to write their business logic and the Corda apps should just work. We don't want them to think about the complex process of setting up a network. Now let's talk about some of the issues which we're trying to solve with Corda 5. So with Corda 4, we had this node per identity concept. And to achieve multi-tenancy, we used Accounts SDK. But if you really look into Accounts SDK, I would say this doesn't provide a true multi-tenant scenario. And the multiple accounts still share the same database at the end of the day. This is again something really important for us in Corda 5, where we have asked ourselves questions like, how do we reduce the overall cost of deploying multi-tenant applications? And how do we achieve true multi-tenancy? Now with Corda 4, we even had this issue of dependency clashing. So let's say that your Corda app and the underlying Corda platform are using different versions of JSON Jackson. Or let's say that you want to use Token SDK in your application. And let's say that the Token SDK and your application, they use, let's say, different version of Log4j. So when you actually deployed your application, somehow this didn't work. These dependencies of different versions, they interfered with each other. So these are some of the issues which we're trying to address with Corda 5. Now let's talk a bit about how do we package differently in Corda 5, which helps us to solve the dependency clashing issue. Now, what we do is we bundle the contract code into a contract.cpk bundle. We also bundle the flows code into a flows.cpk bundle. Now, again, guys, CPK is just a custom Corda extension. There's nothing, anything else or any fancy thing to it. It's just a custom Corda extension. A bundle essentially creates a sandboxed environment, and hence it does not interfere with dependencies from other sandboxes. Now, what you can do is you can load and run multiple CPKs together containing the same dependencies of multiple versions. Now, technically, a bundle is just a jar file with a manifest.mf file within it, containing some OSG or OSGI specific headers and information. Now, you might ask me, what do I mean by OSGI? So behind the scenes, Corda 5 uses OSGI framework, that is the OSGI runtime, to create these bundles. So OSGI philosophy differs from that of other Java-based frameworks like Spring. So in OSGI, multiple applications can exist within the same container at the same time within this OSGI bundled runtime environment. Now the container, this OSGI container, ensures that each of the component is sufficiently isolated and also has access to any dependencies it requires. Hence, all of the dependency management, this is completely handled by this underlying OSGI runtime, and we don't need to worry about handling this. A bundle can also declare a version and can also define what other bundles it depends upon. The runtime will then automatically load all of its bundles in order of the dependency chain. So that's how Corda achieves complete isolation per CPK file. And that's how, since each of the CPK files are now completely isolated, they do not interfere with each other, even if we deploy these CPKs together. So now we know what a CPK file is, right? So how do we collect all of these CPK files together? How do I collect the contract.cpk, the flows.cpk, and how do I build a Corda app now? So Corda provides you with a Gradle task, a Gradle plugin, which takes these contracts and flow bundles, and it wraps them up into a CPB file. Again, the CPB file or a .cpb file, again, it's just a Corda custom extension. A CPB thus defines your Corda app, which consists of your contract and flow CPKs. When we actually build and deploy our application, we will see how to use this Gradle plugin to take these CPK files and create a CPB. So with Corda 5, there isn't a node as such as before, but rather now what we have is, or what we rather call it is, the Corda hosting environment. So instead of packaging a Corda app into one big fat jar, we isolate the individual modules, that is, we isolate the contract and workflows into individual CPK files, and we combine these into one CPB file and deploy this one CPB file. Now, this Corda hosting environment, because of this, it's now network and identity agnostic. So where does this information come from? So the CPB represents one single Corda app, but it doesn't have any identity or network information. So now this is where our third component, which is the CPI or the Corda package installer, comes into the picture. So it links, so basically the CPI links the Corda app to the network and thus contains all the network information required to onboard a Corda app onto a particular network. It consists of information like what's the trust root for this particular network, information like on how to acquire a certificate to join the network. So all of this information can be wrapped up in the CPI. So the CPI, what essentially does is the CPI takes the CPB and wraps around it the identity information and the network information to create one single installation unit. Now the MGM Corda app, which we discussed about in the first slide, this will use this CPI information to set up the network and deploy this Corda app with this the specified identity. Now, because of this, you can now take one CPB, or you can take the same CPB and create multiple CPIs, each containing a new combination of an identity and a network, thus each one representing a new unique network. So guys, keep putting your questions in the chat channel. Peter is there to help you out. So moving on. So this shows you a typical CPK file. This shows a flow CPK bundle, which depends on a contract CPK bundle. If you look at the flow CPK bundle, at the root inside inside the main jar, it contains the Corda apps, contract, flow, and service classes. Any library dependencies that this Corda app may have are stored in the CPK's private lib/folder. Now, this also explicitly states that this flow CPK file is dependent on the contract CPK bundle. Now, a bit about virtual nodes. So Corda 5, I would say it's naturally multi-tenanted, as you can see in the left-hand side of your diagram. So you can think of the hosting environment as a combination of multiple virtual nodes instead of one single node. We call it a virtual node as now this hosting environment is not tied to any specific identity or a network. Also, this virtual node is now not a continuously running process, and it is comprised basically of an application, the one which you can see in the yellow and the orange part. So that's your application and the identity and the vault service. So the idea is to spin up a virtual node when a request comes in. Once the request is completed, this compute resource will be shut down. Because of this, failover can easily be achieved by running multiple virtual nodes having the same application. Now, behind the scenes, we use something called as Kafka as the message bus, or rather as the message broker. So multiple clients can push in messages to this bus, and multiple virtual nodes or workers can consume these messages simultaneously in parallel. But again, integrating with Kafka is something which will be released in subsequent releases. So as of now, for Developer Preview 1, we have something like this, which you can see on your right-hand side of the diagram. So where as of now, we do not have the Kafka broker, and Kafka broker is not integrated. And we deploy one CPB file, that is one Corda app, to one network using the network bootstrapper tool from Corda 4. Now, let me quickly talk a bit about the HTTP RPC API. Now, let's say that you have a web application, and let's say that you want to display, let's say, some node information on the UI. With Corda 4, we had the overhead of developing an extra client module and running another Java process specifically for obtaining this information from the Corda node, right? But now with Corda 5, what we have done is we've developed this HTTP RPC, which is a separate subsystem within the Corda node itself. Internally, what it does is it starts a web server that is responsible for serving HTTP GET and HTTP POST requests from the HTTP clients. There are again a whole bunch of endpoints which are exposed by these web servers for the users to interact with the node. These endpoints, they conform to the OpenAPI standards, and the node also hosts a Swagger UI. Thus, you can now invoke HTTP RPC methods easily from the Swagger UI as well. Again, support for SSL, HTTPS, and SSO, all of this has been added with HTTP RPC API. Now, client to node communication again is now made durable. So you now don't need to worry about losing any messages or handling, let's say, the reconnection, or let's say handling all the retrieval of the lost messages by yourself, which we used to do with Corda 4. Now, a quick recap before jumping on into the code, a quick recap of what we discussed right now. So we saw and discussed about the new network deployment and the MGM Corda app. We spoke about packaging, and we spoke about how we can achieve sandboxing and isolation using OSGI framework. We saw how we package our Corda apps into CPK and CPP files. We spoke about CPI, which will be released in the upcoming releases. We also spoke about how we plan to use Kafka to distribute work to multiple workers and achieve HA. We also discussed the concept of virtual node. And lastly, we spoke about HTTP RPC API. Now, guys, I know all of this can get quite a lot to digest in one go, but don't worry. Let's do one thing now. Let's jump into the code and let's see what all things, whatever we have learned till now, let's see how we can apply these things to the code. Now, I'm going to move on to the code. So okay. Okay, so let me get my idea up. Okay, now. Okay, so. Okay. Yeah. Can you, hey, Peter, can you confirm if you can see my IntelliJ idea?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's get started. So for this session, what we'll do is I will show you how you can build and deploy a Corda 5 Corda app using the new tools released as a part of Developer Preview 1. So for this session, I'm going to use this Corda 5 Java template. This is pushed on to Git, so should be easy for you to download and quickly get started off with writing Corda 5 applications. So Peter, if you could please post in the link to this sample in the chat channel, that will be great. Now, if you look at the package structure, Now, if you look at the package structure, we really have the same structure. You have the contracts and you have the workflows. So all your contracts and states would go in over here and all your flows would go over here. Now, again, the way you write your states and contracts is almost similar with just few extra things to keep in mind. So Peter, it would also be great if you could put in these links, which talks about how to write states and contracts in Corda 5. There are, again, some major changes in the flow, which you need to know when you write flows in Corda 5. So Peter, again, if you could post in the links, which talk about how to write flows, that will also be great. So for this application, we have a flow written, which is the template flow. Now let's do one thing. Let's open up the README and let's follow the steps written in the README. So guys, all of you, a prerequisite of environment settings. So you require Java 11 downloaded and installed for Corda 5. You would require Docker to be installed and started. We will also require Corda Builder and the Corda CLI tool, which are the new tools which are released as part of Developer Preview 1. So Peter, if you could please post in links to these two tools, that will be great. So guys, just set up your environment and you can follow the steps written in the README to build and deploy this Corda 5 Corda app with me. Now let's start off. So the very first thing is, let's do a Gradle W clean build. Let's do a Gradle W clean build. Now this internally, what it does is the Gradle W clean build, This uses the CPK plugin and it creates the contract and the flow CPK files. So if you see over here, you have the CPK files generated by you by the CPK plugin. So this is the contract.cpk file and this is your flows.cpk file, right? Now, the next thing what we'll do is we will use the Corda app builder tool. Again, this is tool which is released as part of Developer Preview 1. We will use this tool to create the CPB file, to create the Corda app, right? We spoke about what a CPB file is. So we'll use Corda app builder's create command to create the CPB file. Now, to do that, to create the CPB file, you have to specify the complete path to your CPKs, right? So as you see over here, we will specify the complete path to the workflow CPK and to the contract CPK to this CPK parameter. So here I have specified workflow CPK path and I've specified the contract.cpk path. And at the very end, you also mention, you have to specify the name of the CPB which you wish to get generated. So you specify the name of the CPP to the O parameter. So let's copy this command and let's paste it out in the terminal. So now this must have created a CPB file. So let's do one thing. Yeah, so it's already here. So as you can see, this is my result.cpb file. This is my Corda app. And internally, this consists of the flow CPK and the contract CPK. Now moving on. Now, from now on, what we'll do is we now will use the Corda CLI tool. Now, the Corda CLI tool, from a very high level, it does these three things. It helps you to manage a network. It helps you to package, or rather, it helps you to install your CPB file to a particular Corda 5 network. It also helps you inspect the jar files or the CPI, CPK, CPB files as well. Now for this session, rather, what we are going to do is we will set up a Docker environment. We'll start off Dockers. We will set up Docker containers. We will start off these Docker containers and we will start off individual nodes onto individual Docker containers. So we will start off the Corda 5 network individually onto individual Docker containers. Once the nodes have started onto individual Docker containers, we will take our CPB file and we will install the CPB file onto each and every node, onto each and every Docker container. Now, all of this we are going to do using Corda CLI. So let's start off. So before even deploying and installing our CPB onto the nodes, onto the Docker containers, let's first configure our network. Now, before even configuring our network, let me see if there are any available networks which have been configured. So for that, let's use the network ls command. Now, this shows you if there are any networks which are already configured on your system. So as of now, I do not have any networks which have been configured on my system. So let's do one thing. Let's use the config command and let's configure a network for us to deploy our CPB file. Now with Corda 5, there are two types of network deployments which are supported. So one is, the one type is the Docker Compose type. Docker Compose you would use usually for rapid testing and development purposes. So for Corda 5 Developer Preview 1, we just have the Docker Compose deployment type available. The other part is the Kubernetes deployment type. So Kubernetes should be used for actual production releases. But again, Kubernetes deployment type is something which will be released in upcoming releases. So let's set up our network deployment type as Docker Compose, and let's give it the name as template network. So let me copy this command, which will configure a network type of Docker Compose for us. So let me hit enter and let's do an ls again to check if we have configured our network. So yes, now the network has been configured. Now what we'll do is, now we'll start off the Docker containers. We'll start off individual nodes onto individual Docker containers. And then finally, we'll install our CPB file. Now, before starting off the containers, what we would require is, we would require the node configuration. So for node configuration, we would use something called as the YAML file. In this YAML file, we will specify all the node configurations. Now, this is an example of a minimalistic node configuration which you can use with Corda 5. So you can, just by specifying the party names, this is enough. Corda 5 will handle all the other values for you. But for this session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this slightly elaborate version, which defines certain users, and it defines the username, the password. It also assigns certain permissions to some flows. So again, jumping back to README, let's now use the deploy command of Corda CLI to deploy our Docker Compose template network. Now, to deploy this network, we will have to specify this network configuration file. So let's do that as well. And to start off the network, we will start off the network by doing a -f and -up command. Okay. So let me copy this deploy command and paste it out in my console. So this is started. Now the network is starting. Now, meanwhile, the network starts. Let me show you something else. So if you hit the network command, you should see that you can also look at the status of a particular network. So let's do that. Let's write the status. Let's look at the status of our network by specifying the name of the network. So if you look into the output, this shows that Notary node is starting, party B is starting, and party A is starting as well. So we have all the nodes which are starting as of now. So let's give this another minute. And so basically what is happening behind the scenes is, as I mentioned, we are still using Corda 4's network bootstrapper tool to start off the network. So we are still using network bootstrapper to actually distribute the required artifacts to each and every node onto individual Docker containers. So when I say artifact, I mean, let's say the member information, or let's say the network parameter file, or let's say all the certificates. All of these artifacts as of now are distributed to all the nodes using the network bootstrapper tool still. Of course, this will change in coming days, but this is what is happening behind the scenes as of now. So again, let's take a look at the status. Now party A and party B are still starting. Now, again, guys, this is a one-time setup. Again, this is a lot of things are going to change in the coming releases, but this is a one-time setup. And so this time is required only for the initial setup. Okay. So till this network starts off, let me see if I have something in the chat channel. Yeah, I think Peter is there too, and he has answered most of them. Yeah, let's give this another moment. Let's look at the status. So once the Corda nodes start off, we will finally do our last step, which is we will install our result.cpb onto individual Corda nodes. And once we deploy the result.cpb onto individual Corda nodes, we'll hit the Swagger UI. Yes, so I think the nodes have started. So if you look at the status, you should see that party A now is ready and party B is still starting. I think party B is ready now as well. So if you see party B is ready, party A is ready, and the notary is ready as well. All right, so let's do one thing. Now all the nodes are ready and all the nodes have started onto individual Docker containers. So now again, let's use the Corda CLI tool and use the package command to deploy or to install our result.cpb onto all the nodes. So I'm going to hit this command. And now, now what's going to happen is, as of now, if you can see that that the result.cpb is getting deployed and installed onto all the nodes. And as you can see, this is as of now restarting the network. It is restarting the entire network and it is restarting individual nodes. But just a point over here that, as I mentioned, we are still using the network bootstrapper tool for Corda 5 as well. But going forward, so we are in the process and our roadmap that going forward, you won't actually need to do this. That is, we will eventually support hot loading of Corda apps. So as of now, as you see, the nodes are getting restarted, but eventually in our upcoming roadmap, in our upcoming releases, you should see something like the hot loading of Corda apps being supported. So eventually you won't be required to restart the network, to restart the nodes, and it's going to be just a matter of fact of dropping in your CPI or the CPB onto the nodes. So let's give this another minute for the nodes to restart. And once we do that, we will go and look at the HTTP RPC API. So I think party B is started. Let's check the status. Yay. So party A is ready and party B is ready as well. Awesome. Okay, so now let me share my hey Peter, can you see my Safari?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So let me just hit my Swagger UI. And now you can see that this is the HTTP RPC API, or this is the Swagger UI, which the node exposes. And there are a whole bunch of things, whole bunch of endpoints which have been exposed, and all of this is readily available for you. So you don't really have to worry about building the Swagger UI for yourself. So let's do one thing. Let's just try some flow, and let's just try hitting, let's say, the registered flow. So yes, it works. So as you can see, this hit the node, and you can see that this was the template flow, which is a part of the workflow CPK written in our template Corda app. And this is how you can hit the endpoints using the Swagger UI. All right, so I think that's about it from my side. I'm going to open up the session for any questions. Can we have Peter as well?
Yes.
Yeah, again,
yes.
Guys, yeah, before ending, few things. So we have a few samples on our Git repo. So please go and try it out, and feel free to ping us to connect with us on Slack or Discord. So again, Peter, if you could share the Slack and Discord links. So feel free to reach out to us for any damn questions. Again, we have the documentation as well. So please, if you could share the documentation link as well. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, so we actually have we actually have two questions we want to address. So the first one, I just gonna read it out loud. So I think either you or Nina can answer it. So the first question is there any roadmap for Corda 5 to with interoperabilities with other network, non-Corda ones?
Yeah, it's a good question. I can't say confidently that it's on the roadmap, but we have done CordaCon talks about it last month. You guys can check out by our Octo team, which is basically the research and development department here in R3. And we've done some swaps with other networks, not Corda, like Solana, for example. So do check that out. This is definitely something we're looking at the space, and if we get market demand for it, we'll definitely try bake that into our roadmap sometime in the future. But at the moment, we are talking about Corda network to network interoperability, but you never know in the future. We will definitely take that into consideration.
Thanks, Nina. So actually, we have a second question: is Corda 5 backward compatible?
Yeah, so I'll try to address this question two phases. So this question is quite ambiguous because there's quite a lot of ways you can think about it. So is Corda 5 compatible with Corda 4? And what I mean by that is, can a Corda 4 node talk to Corda 5? No, because Corda 5 has a dependency refresh. So Corda 5 is compatible with Java 11, Gradle 6, and Kotlin 1.4, whereas Corda 4 uses Java 8, which makes these two platforms incompatible. So Corda 5 is not backwards compatible with Corda 4, but when we do release a production version of Corda, which will be Corda 5.0, it will be forwards compatible with the rest of the Corda 5 series. So say in future down the line, we release Corda 5.2, for example, you can still talk to a Corda 5.0 node.
Thanks, Nina. So I think those are the two questions that we select from the chat. And the rest of the question, we answered them in the chat, and I already dropped a lot of links in the chat. So yes, so if you have any questions, feel free to email us at devrel@r3.com. So thanks, Nina. Back to you, Sneha.
Yeah, I think we should be good to wrap up, and back to you, Naveen.
That was great. In fact, so plan for the weekend. First, get certified with Corda 4 and then learn about Corda 5 developer preview. So it's not a full version, right? It's a developer preview, which we are testing now. Awesome. Great. So that was an awesome session on developer Corda 5 and a lot of new features coming up. So exciting. And now